Our question today is, do NFTs have the power to help us become custodians of Cabernet, carbon, and the countryside? So hopefully you're here to learn a little bit more about how technology can help us to realize the future of food, community custodianship of land, management of carbon emissions, and protection of history. For those hoping for a glass of wine, apologies, we've only got 3. You're going to have to wait. You're going to have to wait till the afternoon, to the evening shenanigans. But we'll start off with some introductions. So my name is Kate Baucherel. I'm an author, a speaker, and a strategic consultant. I'm working with people who are using blockchain, crypto, and NFTs in their business model. So please welcome Genevieve Leveille and Fiona Delaney.
Hi.
Please introduce yourselves.
Well, Genevieve? We're too polite. We haven't had enough wine yet. I'm Fiona Delaney. I'm from Ireland. I'm the CEO of a company called Origin Chain Networks. And we use blockchain to basically, build a future of food that we can trust. I'm a software engineer, and I mainly focus on tech-enabled business logic, essentially, and use different ways of enhancing concepts like ownership, collaboration, cooperative action through the use of digital technologies.
So I'm Genevieve Leveille, and I'm the CEO of AgriLedger. Our claim to fame thus far is putting the mango on the blockchain. So I ran a project with the World Bank where we work with smallholder farmers to get their products to market and to get them access to financial services. Lots of lessons learned from there. And really, what the best thing was the outcomes of really being able to show the beauty of Web3. We didn't call it NFT, but what we did was tokenize events to create that. So I'll tell you more about it later, and also some of the work we're doing around this.
Fantastic, thank you. So I live in a highly rural region of the country. So I'm in the northeast of England with Northumberland on the doorstep. And I've recently done some work with the Rural Catalyst there. And two of the things stand out from the research that we've done and from the activities that are going on up there. I mean, this is a massively global issue. And one is that there is a real drive to harness technology, not just in smart farming, but across all the rural resources and heritage sites and history and so on. But secondly, imposing solutions on communities is never going to be a good idea. Genevieve, to start off with, what's been your experience with championing that bottom-up approach for rural communities? And how do NFTs come into it?
So NFTs is, I'm really harsh sometimes to say we're really in a marketing world. And I think NFTs, we right now are very much looking at the visual. Somebody said something very important to me and said, do you remember Napster? Most of us, if we got to see Napster, tried to figure it out. But now we don't have to figure it out anymore. It's part of our lives. We stream our music, we stream our news, we stream our movies. And I think this is where we're going to get with NFTs. Everything starts visually, and I like to think everything starts with the arts, with music, with visual. This is how we express ourselves as human beings. So this has also allowed for the technology to now say, oh, this is what I can do with this data. So beyond if that images disappear, what can we do with that data? What does it teach us? And part of what we know is very important also to us human is communication. So this communication aspect is what we're using. So I didn't call it NFT, but the farmer brings 100. I followed 100. I say, who's touched it? Where did it go? How much did it get paid? How much was paid for it? And at the end, I take the revenue and the royalties, and I redistribute it. Now, what this allowed us to show was there was an increase of between 400 to 750% in what the farmer got. And that went from where they were at 2% of revenue to 64% of the revenue. And this wasn't even telling people that this wasn't a blockchain. But they trusted it, And this is where community comes in. I don't think we need to go and talk about the mumbo jumbo of blocks. We just need to be saying to somebody, this is what happens, this is what you're going to see, this is the information you're going to have. Oh, this is not how you work it. And so we need to bring in flexibility. So it is really, and the key aspect is getting everybody to play. So how do you get them to play is to understand what's in it for them.
That's really interesting. So you're getting down to the absolute nub of a digital asset, in fact, in the progress of that revenue and the journey of the community, starting from the bottom, is being recorded as part of that digital journey. So you've got that unique journey, that unique asset, that unique NFT. Fiona, what's your findings?
Similarly, we use NFTs in our company to capture process, on-farm data process. So Genevieve was describing almost like a metaverse, which is capturing the information of the agri-food system, right? She's describing the agri-food system almost as if it's a metaverse. And if we look at the people I work with are at the first mile of that. Farmers, field workers, poorly served in terms of internet access, probably poorly served in terms of technical devices and hardware that they can utilize and formulate farm management or data management strategies themselves. And why would they do it anyway? Because individually, they might be somebody who's interested in improving their systems, but together, collectively, they can actually publish their on-farm data, and it becomes valuable in the way that the amount of different talks I've been to here today, particularly in the gaming field, talking about ownership equals you can sell something. So if you are the data creator on farm and you're digitizing your version of reality, the observed reality in your fields, and that is important for what we were talking about earlier, the climate, carbon capture, biodiversity capture. My own company focuses on biodiversity in rural areas, biodiversity data capture, and in smart cities we look at greening smart cities and capturing data about community actions there. And we use NFTs rather than have to build an entire system. We can bypass that requirement, test to see if there's an actual marketplace for this kind of information, and use NFTs to publish that. So I would say right now we are involved in determining new go-to-market strategies, which are sort of proof of concepts in the marketplace, leveraging NFT technology, and creating buy-in, because we work with the ecosystems and the communities. For example, a project myself and Genevieve are involved in Catalonia is called the Wine Creators Project, and that is for a couple of cooperatives of wine producers and helping them to explore new market avenues using and mapping digital provenance, essentially, for those new markets.
But I think it's important to say, I think that right now we're so much focused, this is so new. That's why I was saying Napster. We're at the beginning of the race. And if we look at it, you know, some people say, oh, there's 14% people with crypto. I think it's more like 2%. 14% maybe in the greater north, 2% on a global level. And we need to harness this technology and understand it. And also we need to create things with resiliency. And so we don't want to give a bomb to people. So what we also need to do, farmers are used to it. You come in with this newfangled thing, and does it work? Does it do my life a little better?
The internet doesn't even work on that.
So how do we bring this technology to them is really what we've started in sort of, you know, we all love getting gold stars when we were young. So what about if you do some things, we give you an NFT, and you go, oh, what is that? I can show it to my friends, and I can now start understanding what else is happening as I'm learning. And this is really why we're saying, at the end of the day, the farmers are the bottom, you know, in ways, sometimes they're at the bottom of the food chain, but they are the start of the food chain. If we don't have them, we're all going to perish. So we need to not only look at how do they produce, how do they get compensated fairly, and also how do they keep, what they want to do is to keep the earth healthy. How do they keep the earth healthy and get recognized for that? And with the carbon credit, one of my great, thank God they realized we need blockchain for this. Because the greenwashing, the double counting, every day you're hearing about somebody else. Walmart just got banged, 400 million, not one credit behind it. So we now can actually start making a difference. But what we need to do is gain trust. And that's the key. How do we build that trust in the technology?
I have to say that this panel should be entitled "So Many Uses for NFTs," because how many ways are we now using this technology in just the examples we've given here? So we're looking at following the movement of goods, following the activities of the individuals in the supply chain from the bottom up. We're looking at recording data around carbon, around the custodians of the countryside, effectively, and taking that out into the real world and making it transparent and verifiable and trusted. So we've got multiple applications, and of course the gold stars, the reward structure of here is a gold star, and we can. And this goes even all the way back to the provenance and the verification of things like Rainforest Alliance certification and so on and so forth. So there are multiple applications of the same technology in different directions. I know there are challenges around sort of business logic and systems there, aren't there, Fiona? Yeah.
That's my bread and butter, I guess. So I think we can all agree that we're living now in a time where our concept of reality is beginning to change, right? Our experience of reality is something closer to some, hybrid. In any moment we can have any moment can be digitally informed. We've all got our phones, we've all got, any amount of information available to us at our fingertips, and whether or not we choose to use that in the moment to either create a purchase or to inform ourselves about the impact of some piece of technology or some food that we might be about to eat. Is it actually vegan? Where is it from? All of these different kinds of things. And what does it mean to build a hybrid reality? And what does it mean to be an entrepreneur active in that hybrid reality space? If we conceptualize the food industry or the agri-food system as a metaverse, what does it mean to build systems for that? And how connected, how interoperable do they need to be? Hi, you joining? No. So how interoperable do they need to be? And what does interoperability mean? Because it's not just my device and your device. It's actually, but it's not. We're talking about business interoperability. In the global agri-food value chain, we're talking about multiple trade territories. We're talking about highly differentiated regulatory environments. The food regulation system in the US is quite different to that in Europe. And it's quite different to that in China, for example, hence the value of European origin food in different markets. It's considered a luxury product, for example. And what does that mean, and how do we valorize it? And how do we, instead of creating scarcity in the food industry, which is not what we want to do, we want food security, how do we use digital technology and this digitalization of reality, the state of reality, how do we use that to address the problems that we have in our socio-economies in this new hybrid reality that we're all part of, right? Absolutely, we're all part of.
Do you think that the strength of using NFTs, so using specifically unique digital records for all of these different aspects, is superior to just the older approach of distributed ledger movement of records of transactions?
I'm going to go there.
Go for it.
I'm not, what happens is that we're tokenizing. If that token is now, we want to call it an NFT, so be it. But I think there's more to it than just NFT. And in ways, I need to have the distributed ledger technology to be able to evidence all the steps. The NFT itself is not, okay, I stop it and it's 100 because I'm expecting loss. between a start of 100 to final sale. I
Okay.
then need to be able, so I like to think of distributed ledger technology as nothing else, but people hate to say that, it's a database, but it's a very, very special database. Now, because I have truth, I can use NFTs, let's say, for reputation, the reputation of the person, what to deliver, how they do things. So I think that we can use token. That token cannot be anything else, so that non-fungibility is what then makes it an NFT. But we need to go
Okay.
beyond images, beyond its data, which informs, and that data needs to be used in different conjunctions.
So we have a mixture of approaches, of which NFTs is one very valid way of doing things.
It's a core. I would
Yeah.
say it's almost a core. One of the challenges that we have seen is that we don't have a Merkle tree NFT. So that, and for people, it's this idea that information, let's say we all contribute, our contribution is part of a final product, but that final product also goes back to us, and we can then show how many of those creations we have done. That's where I'd like to see it going eventually. Now, where there is value, and this is where this whole idea of also the Cabernet or the wine, what we know is a wine producer might get 10 cents out of the $2,000 bottle that gets sold. Sometime, yes, we can be, okay, so $2 bottle that's got sold, so 10 cents is a pretty good number. But it is consistent that they're getting 10 cents out of whatever gets produced. So now, if we can show the progression of that bottle, which actually is sold for $2,000, let's imagine, or this utopian view. Is it an utopian view? I'm not sure, but I think that we've proven that it's possible, that they're rewarded back. And you can then start imagining, can I take that future income for that brand that I know is going to be very successful, and can I get money for it before?
So we're moving towards the idea of financing.
Exactly.
I mean, this broadens out the application. I know we've talked a lot about the tracing of the food chain and the activities from the bottom up from the farming community. But if we go a little wider into the supporting the rural community.
Well,
there are other aspects around everything from the heritage of the countryside to, as you say, the funding streams for farmers. I mean, certainly on the heritage side, there are. If you think about a hybrid reality, you can go down all sorts of rabbit holes. For instance, if you have a tourist attraction in a rural area and you want to have sustainable tourism, can you sell the souvenirs, the arts and crafts and experience as digital assets that can be printed on the other side of the world,
100%,
for example?
Yeah. I mean, I'm working on a project quite separate to this. It's called the Metaverse Traveler Project. It's sort of like Airbnb for your head, where you can buy a holiday from somebody else who goes and sends you back bespoke videos to wherever you send them, like the Big Ben or the Tower of London or the London Eye or whatever. And it's an IoT project, basically. And it's so obviously born out of COVID, where people were trapped at home and they want to go anywhere else. But there's a load of different ideas there. And it comes back to, so I'm not so interested personally, or even in my company, in this idea of disintermediating the food value chain. I'm not about that, and I think it's why we work so well together, because Genevieve is all about that. I'm really more interested in enabling, I think, digital entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
Farmers are super, super entrepreneurial. Every year they're making decisions about what they're going to do with their farm and everything else, and this is a new way of elaborating that entrepreneurship for them. And I'm really, really all about empowering that. And for the work that we're doing in Catalonia and Spain, the wine creators that we're working with are super, super innovative. They're exporting small amounts of their own distribution to 38 different countries. They're, working with influencers on MasterChef in Australia. They're doing all this kind of stuff in a very, very tech-enabled world. And if you visit them on their vineyard, you can't even send your mom a photograph. Like, there's no internet there. So you don't need to have permanent access. You don't need to have pervasive communications or computing. You do need to have a digitally enabled strategy. And I think Web3 is an amazing concept or context for enhancing entrepreneurship on the part of those innovative growers and makers of the world.
You have touched on a really classic problem for the rural community, though, which is connectivity, because the cost per individual for bringing that connectivity, it depends on the culture, to be honest. It depends on the country. I mean, I live some of the time in France, and we're getting our third rollout of fibre because the first one was slow. It was only 10 megabits per second, and the current one's only 70. But in other countries, I go to rural Northumberland and I can't get a signal.
Broadband yet. I mean, like, seriously, it depends on what country you're in.
So in the last couple of minutes, how do we get past that real challenge that we have technology that can really massively help the rural community and farmers, but we don't necessarily have a way to roll it out?
So one of the things is that I know that there was a little swipe about me taking it financial. At the end of the day, money makes the world go around. And so if we can bring in this, so what COVID has showed us is you don't need to be everywhere all the time. And a lot of people in the world actually don't travel. Some of us are lucky. So how do you bring that prosperity and that equity back is what's important. And this technology really to me, is a key toward that. And it is really about us educating, almost proselytizing about it in ways, and breaking it down in very simple terms that people want, and also looking to build it in ways that do not require you to have connectivity all the time, does not require you to have a smartphone, but is resilient.
So resilience and the ability to run without constant connectivity is one part. I guess another is ensuring that the return that is coming into a rural community is growing and there is richness there, that there is wealth there to actually make the investment. I've been in the rainforest in Borneo where the village clubbed together to get a mast because that helped them with their transport and so on, and they could watch the football as well.
I would say one of the challenges that we have, though, this is something why Fiona and I are also working together so much, is the demands of what I would call the Greater South are different than the ones of the Greater North. In the Greater South, they need to get their product to market and get a fair return on it. So getting to market sometimes is a problem of infrastructure and things like that, but many more time, it's really the investment in that infrastructure. So we have the ability to demonstrate the impacts to this platform to then allow for the proper investment to happen there. Versus in the North, it's around reputation.
Yeah, it's more like a compliance play, I would say, in Europe. That there's an opportunity there around creating insurance pathways for what in Europe has been established as a very secure, high integrity food value chain.
Fantastic. I know we are coming very, very close to the end of our time, and I think we could keep talking for a long time. There was a lot to unpack around the whole food value chain and the benefits to rural communities of using blockchain technology, distributed ledgers, and NFTs. And I hope we've given you a flavour of what is possible. So thank you very much, Fiona, Genevieve, and yes, cheers, everybody. And I hope you're enjoying your day.
Thank you. Cheers.
Thank you.
Thanks, Genevieve.